How y'all doing? I created this site for pretty much video games and was playing video games for a while. I did a PBM game back in the old days, back in the 90s, and won some national attention for it. But I kind of let the site go for 5 years, and then I was a really good chess player back in high school. I started at 11, 1967. 1972 through 74, I played on high school teams. I was at a private school in 72 and went back to public school in 73 and 74. And I was the number one board for that high school in the state of Washington uh, in 73 and 74. Uh, we were pretty decent. In 74, we uh, played the number one team that won state in the regular season, home and away, and we beat them twice. And they were undefeated against everybody else. They just smoked everybody. Their high school team was Ferris out of Spokane. And I really enjoyed chess back then. It was amazing. And I was taught by a Russian heritage science teacher, and he gave me a book on Petrovs. And so back then I was playing Petrovs, and I actually in a USCF tournament beat a expert uh, with the Queen Fork in a game. I mean, it lasted like 45 seconds, and I was kind of crazy. I've had some great wins. I've had some great losses. I went and my 74 year, actually 73, we played the number one rated player in the state of Washington in Spokane. I think it was in the Bon Marché on the second level of Skywalks. And it was a simultaneous, all the high school players played him. And Ferris kid won. Gonzaga Prep came in and got a draw, and I was the third ranked at that time, and I had split with the Gonzaga Prep guy, 1-1. So I played him, and I got a draw as well, and everybody else lost. But it was just amazing that he would come to play us, and it was a great experience. And so was loving chess. We had an amazing team my senior year, and all of them. I think what was interesting for our team, when I came back to Meade High School in 73, 74, they didn't have a chess team. There was 11 teams in the league, or 10 teams in the league at the time. And so I went to the math teacher and asked him to sponsor us, and we got sponsored. He told me, he said, you need to recruit and you need to play everybody. And make sure that everybody is equal. And so we went and used that tactic, and we'd play every day, and then go home on the sports buses at night. And all our guys, we had 6 players, 5 players on a team. If you win 3 games to 2, of course you win the match. But they were all strong. And so our team was across the board pretty much as good as me. They just couldn't beat me. And our second and third board, I mean, was as good as our fourth and fifth. And so we just smoked everybody. When we played Ferris, our first and second board, I lost. Second board lost. But in 30 minutes, our third, fourth, and fifth boards won. And that was the way to beat them. And so we had a state shot. We were, I think, in fifth ranked in the state of Washington at the time, and we were going to state. I mean, it was clear, and if we matched up with Ferris, we had a really good chance. So debate and chess were in different venues on the same weekend, and the debate coach, teacher, English teacher, went to the school board and was adamant that chess could not play, and that debate was curriculum, chess was a club. And it just rocked me because there was 2 of us that weren't on the debate team. There were 4 of us that were. And the school board decided that because chess was a club, they could not go. And so 2 of us had to sit home. And it kind of rocked me, and I dropped chess. I went to college, Washington State, and played for a little bit as I started as a freshman. And I walked into the chess club, and they looked at me, and I always had a baby face, so I was always looking younger than I was. And I was totally respectful in there, and I played their number 1 guy, and I got pawn pushed for the win for him. And he looked at me, and his coach looked at me, and I played really well. And he said, when you grow up, you can come back. And I was like, what? And I looked at him, and I was just like totally shocked. And so I dropped chess. I dropped it for 30 years. I moved to the Oregon coast, and it's beautiful here. I really enjoy it. And I decided to meet people. I got on a chess club here. And in 2009, there was the Newport Open, and all the Portland guys were there. There were some big names, and as well as the Bend, Oregon team was there. And I went 4-1. And it was a pretty incredible experience. I played pretty well. And I tied for 3rd, and they rated me as 4th because the guy I tied with was actually higher rated. And I was rated USCF 1648 back in high school. And so with that, it got me to the Western States Championships that fall in Reno, Nevada. And we played at Terrible's and the casino. And it was an amazing experience. I went 1 win, 3 draws, and 2 losses. But I got to play Sergey Kudrin in a simultaneous. And it took us 22 hours to get there. And I was in a rush. We were 30 minutes late, and he let me play anyway. And that was a really cool thing. And I played Petrov because that's what I knew. In high school back then, it's old notation. And so, but also, not many people in Spokane, Washington knew Petrov. And I also played what was called the center gambit back then, which I believe is E4, D4, with the 2 pawns out front. It would pawn to king 4, pawn to knight, pawn to queen 4, old notation. And I kind of adapted it into the Scotch game. And so then I, adapted it a little bit better as time went on. But I used it pretty well back then. A lot of players couldn't handle them. And both the Petrovs and the center or the Scotch game. And so I did pretty well with that. But when I went to the Western States and played Sergey, he let me play. It came down to the H file, and I had a huge trap down there. And I was looking at him, and all the Russian masters were watching the game, and they came over and they watched, and he was playing other people, and my game actually was the last one because he took a lot of time looking at it, and all the Russian masters came up and looked at it. And I decided, and I don't know why I did, but I really thought that, I was really lucky to be there. And, I was 30 minutes late. He still let me play. And so, respectfully, I didn't do it. And I had it. And I had a free rook. I mean, it was a pretty good trap. And, it wasn't sandbagging. I was just, the moment that I got to play him, it was an honor. I mean, he won the U.S. Open twice. And so I think the second one was after this. But just being there. And so out of respect, I didn't do it. And it was one of those things. I had a friend of mine, John Chung, who knew them all. I was walking down the steps after like the fourth round, and here he is with all the Russian masters and this master teacher from Leningrad, and he had a vodka in his hand. He was gregarious, and he looked at me and he goes, "You know, I heard you were really pretty good back in the day. You're a little rusty now, but I can teach you some things." And I was like, "Man, this is really cool." And I go, "How do you know John?" He goes, "Oh, we played all the time back in California and in New York." And I'm like, "What? You flippin' sandbagger." and he's expert. He's almost master, and he always just stays right under master. But John was an amazing player, and he taught me a lot too. And he always thought I had an excellent end game. And so anytime he'd play matches in tournaments, he would then go back after the tournament was done, and he'd call me over, and we'd look at the end game because he goes, "Your end game is really super strong." And I actually played him in the Newport Open in the fourth round. I lost because I played him so many times. I went and played with a Sicilian, and I think it went like 68 moves, and I lost on a pawn push. But he goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that." I mean, I was not prepared for that, and that was a pretty cool thing. But to play Sergey, and then when I went into the situation with the Western States Open, I was in the 1500 class. I was 1500. They rated me based on my. They could only find the 1648. They couldn't find the other tournaments. So when I came in, I was put at number one board, which was an honor. And all of a sudden, Sergey during his match walked over, and I got black 5 times in that tournament. And I played Petros every time. And he watched every game I played Petros. It was the coolest thing. And he talked to me. He was such a nice guy. And it was just an honor. So I have played in some tournaments. With chess.com, I really got back into it about October, November. I'm not a speed chess player. I just never have been. I really haven't put an effort into it. At the Western States, I got 11 points out of 18, but just not a big speed chess guy. And I found the daily games, and so I play three-day daily games. And of course, you can play faster than that, so the games don't last that long. But with that, my ratings started to rise, and it's more like a normal game. You hope that nobody's like kibitzing with your opponent or, looking at a freaking engine. I don't use any engines whatsoever. I don't. You're playing me. And I look at the board. I play 20 games at a time on the dailies. I look at the board. Somebody makes a move. Usually it's like 30 seconds to a minute, and I make my move. And then, if it's a really, really strong position or there's something intricate about the position, then I'm going to take a lot longer, maybe 5 minutes. But I'm pretty fast. And so with playing those games for me, you're playing me. I have a love for the game. It is for the love of the game. I don't care if I win or lose. I just want to have fun. And so I decided to put on my YouTube channel my chess games. And hopefully you guys will like them. Hopefully we'll get some views. Hopefully, you'll think, hey, this guy isn't too bad. I've been rocked. I've had some great games. My favorite game is game number 1 in my playlist for chess.com. And it comes down to a 3-queen promotion at the end. And we got running pawns, and our kings are on the opposite side of the board. And I was getting crushed. The guy was from Brazil. It was a really tough game. I thought, man, this one's a tough one. I'm going to get just smoked. And I saw an out, and I went for the pawns, pushing my pawns up the queen side. And he didn't have any protection up there. And I was really surprised that he didn't take his H-file kingside pawn and run it down at me. But it came down to promotions. And I saw it. I was probably about 7 to 10 moves ahead. And I saw a chance, and I got a checkmate that was pretty amazing. And it's a really good game. It's just a really fun game to watch. So hopefully you check it out. And, it's just for the love of the game. The other thing that's really interesting, I watched The Queen's Gambit. And for me, it was an amazing movie because that's what it was like back then. 73, 74, Fischer's playing Spassky in 73. It's all old notation. And with me in high school chess, with team chess, all of a sudden, you're playing, you have to write all the games down, old notation. And so when I started playing here in 2009, 2008, everybody was saying E3, H5, G2. I'm like, what the frick is that? Because I'd been out of it for so long. It was like learning a different language. And in fact, still in 2009 and 2010, when somebody would say, hey man, you should have went E3, I'm like, what the frick? And, that's, I believe that's pawn to queen bishop 3 in old notation. So what I loved about the Queen's Gambit was the accuracy, the old notation. And when I was watching movies, I knew exactly where they were going to move. And just because they were talking in old notation. And that was the toughest thing coming back to chess for me, was actually new notation. I mean, it's an excellent, Bobby Fischer just created that thing, and that was awesome. But for somebody that just thought old notation the whole time, take 30 years away and then come back and start having to think new notation, I don't think that way. And so it was like, oh my God, am I going to be okay, or am I going to progress? Because when somebody says that to me, it's like Greek. Now I finally got it, so I know where the positions are, and I know the board. But I had to look at the little numbers around the chessboard to try to figure it out for like 5 years. So I made this site, just for the enjoyment and the love of the game. I'm not the best. I'm not even close to being an expert. I have beat experts. I beat a couple of masters. But, for me, it's just the love of the game. Hope you enjoy the site. Hope you, make comments, good or bad. Don't trash me. I'm an old man. I'm older than dirt. I can talk. So I'm not a trash talker, but, don't get me angry. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the site, and thank you for checking it out.